Yeah,
You can let
there we go.
know who was signed on. And then just gotta kind of keep an eye for chats.
Just Chris back there, okay.
All right.
So you have to mark.
Got Mark, we've got Ruth, we've got Kim.
Mark, Ruth.
And
Kim.
There.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice. Okay. Kim. We tend to be an inclusive group. Let's see, these,
Part of the PLC, yeah.
okay, so Mark, Ruth and Kim,
Mark, Ruth, and Kim.
okay.
Excellent. Approval of minutes, special meeting minutes, August 27th, 2024, motion to accept. So moved. Steve, is there a second on those?
I'll second.
No, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Public hearing minutes, September 26th, 2024, motion to approve. So moved. Second,
second,
Oh, Mark seconds.
yep,
Do we have enough people?
we could speak for
Vince.
Fred, we'll do that after this.
Yeah.
Or Vincent.
I'm sorry, so who seconded,
Mark.
Steve?
Mark.
I
Mark.
mean, for Vince, Vince sometimes comes late, but, you know, he might be here later.
Second.
Yeah, I haven't seated Mark yet, so.
Oh, could I?
second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
So let's, take a motion,
But just when you call the order typically.
yeah,
Yeah, well, we're fine. Yeah.
like to take a motion to seat Mark or Fred. And Eileen for Vincent. Matt, is there a second? Stephen, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Okay.
Thank
Wait,
you.
Eileen for who, Vincent, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so, this is by Marlo and seconded by, I must be slow tonight, Matt. Steve,
First, second. Yeah.
Yeah,
both and both, okay? Motion both.
thank you for that, Miss stuff.
Vincent seems to be on the Zoom.
What was that?
Can you guys hear me?
Oh,
There's Vincent is on.
Oh, Vince has arrived.
I was here, I was just having trouble because I'm in the city. I'm
No
sorry.
worries. Okay. So, that will just automatically revert Eileen back to alternate.
Okay.
So regular meeting minutes, September 26th, 2024. Stephen, second. Second. Oh, God. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. There's a note to our new trainee on knowledge. If, like on the voting, if there's any, the ayes, you know, usually they raise their hand or what have you, you can help us out.
Yeah, I still can't see Vince, but
He might just be audio,
Can I have her for a
Yeah.
second? Yeah.
and sometimes he's just audio.
also when the show.
If you
Okay.
just over to participants. Everybody, and you can actually, if you do this view. And if you do.
He'd have to turn his video on. We're all learning.
We do this, yeah, but. You know what, the problem is usually the setup is a little. There, but.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wow,
Okay, sorry about that.
sorry.
Daly's also on.
Thank you.
All right, so public comments, anything? Please, nothing? Anything?
Yes,
a letter?
yes, I'm sorry, it's a little hard to jump in there. It's Daily Ravel, and I have public comment, and I had submitted them in writing. Did everybody receive them? Yeah.
Yes,
Just about to read it in.
So official correspondence does come in at number 7, but I believe that the chairman was about to read your comments into the record.
Well, I'd be happy to wait until after the comments are read for my additional comment.
Has everybody read the comment? So Daley, I think we can just, well, you asked for him to be, include the email and public comment section. I understand we have 2 sections. I understand what Janelle's saying. So to sake of clarity for tonight, I'll read it briefly and then you can have 2 minutes for your comment. Does that work?
Thank you. Great.
To the members of the Falls Village P and Z, you have all received a copy of the statute for discussion on October 24th meeting. It is possible that you have not read it carefully to see how it presents Falls Village. Following are quotes from the document. The biggest point of this document is the importance of conservation. Quote, conservation plays a crucial role in the county's economic vitality and quality of life. Quote, unquote, and River Road Homes violates this goal. Quote, Falls Village, 25 homes, 21 underway. And it quotes, yet there's no distinction between different projects, some fully funded, others pointedly not. Quote, goals, locate affordable housing in or near town center areas and our existing infrastructure when possible, end quote. Yet River Road Homes does the total opposite. It mandates a separate water company. Page 19 has a map of Falls Village with all our housing in one location. Norfolk, Salisbury, Sharon, and Kent are all given their respect of naming each initiative separately. The River Road Homes project, miles from downtown, is pending approval for basic funding of stabilizing the forest bed with gravel. Falls Village Housing Trust has not yet met the documenting obligations of the release of funding. But the in-town housing of buildings called Prospect and Minor Streets has been given $800,000 for housing rehabilitation. Why have these 2 very different projects been combined in this strategy when in all our neighboring towns, separate projects have separate designation in this report? I am concerned that the Falls Village P&Z has not read or addressed how this document misrepresents our community. Please include this email in the public comments section of tomorrow night's meeting. Respectfully, Daley. Go ahead, Daley.
Well, thank you very much for reading that, Greg. So I put the question before the board. If you have read this, you must address this tonight before you approve this conservation housing analysis and strategy, because it does, I believe, not present Falls Village in the light that it deserves. And I thank you for your time.
David, yeah, he's in the meeting.
I was at a pocket meeting with LCD. I apologize. I just came to another meeting.
No worries, just want to make sure you have a public comment.
I don't have a public comment. I'm gonna leave all the public comments for my learning.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Anything that kind of work.
All right, so moving on, new business. As we just discussed, resolution of support for the affordable housing and conservation collaboration strategy. We have a suggested form that reads from February to September 2024, representatives from town boards of selectmen, planning and zoning commissions, conservation organizations, and housing organizations in 8 Northwest Connecticut communities met as part of the project to build capacity for cross-sector collaboration. This group included 1 or more representatives from the Town of Canaan and Falls Village. I'm just going to tuck in there to say that it was first selectman Dave Barger, myself, on behalf of planning and zoning, and Tracy Atwood on behalf of the Falls Village Housing Trust, sending this wording strategy collaboration. All right, back to the resolution. Whereas the participants in the Northwest Connecticut Affordable Housing and Conservation Collaboration Strategy agreed on a common purpose statement that healthy communities need both affordable housing and conserved land. Cross-sector and regional collaboration among town governments, housing organizations, and conservation organizations is vital to achieving our affordable housing and conservation goals. And whereas the participants identified points of alignment in their goals, as well as strategies and tools to pursue these aligned goals as outlined in the strategy report dated September 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Canaan Falls Village Planning and Zoning Commission hereby supports this collaboration strategy and will make its best effort to implement the strategies outlined in this report. Is there anybody want to make a motion on that to get the discussion?
Where is that again? Is it in here?
I think it's suggested literature.
Do you have a copy of this one?
I can make you one. Yeah.
Say, I have one.
Oh, you have an extra?
Yeah, I think so. So it's
Yeah.
mine.
That's about we were prepared.
Um,
I can make one.
It's in here.
Alright.
Yeah.
Greg,
So.
Yes. So
Sorry, it's not.
oh, here it is. Page 11.
Example?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, was that Ruth?
Matt, was that Ruth? I was trying to speak to Greg.
Can you say that again, Ruth?
Okay.
Whoever.
So is there any questions? Is there anybody want to make a motion to discuss this?
I'll make a motion to discuss.
Steve will make a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Doug, any discussion on that motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Nobody online, right, Matt? Good to go. All right, open for discussion.
Ruth
So-
has thing off.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mark, what was that?
Ruth, we can't hear you. You're muted. No,
You're muted? Can you unmute her, Matt?
my question is, has the Board of Selectmen already passed
Are you muted?
resolution?
Said,
Yes, they have.
you muted, you said you were muted. Oh,
Ruth, they have?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
She was asking if they have.
Yeah.
You're saying, okay.
Doug, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just to Daley's point on, well, maybe a couple of them at least, just to address them while we're talking about it. There is, I believe, one of her points was on page 4, the housing and conservation goals, under housing goals. It does list Falls Village as 25 homes, 21 underway. So we should discuss that at least or correct it if necessary. I can't figure out where that comes from.
Yeah, I'm with Doug there.
Right now, we're working on the two houses, well, we're not, the land trust is, or the, you know where I'm headed. We're working on the 2 apartments on Prospect.
There's 4 apartments.
Before, so I think, to my knowledge, that's the only work underway. River Road is, in all purposes, really dead in the water, I think, right? I mean, is there no action, no,
That I don't know.
yeah, so-
Or that really.
As
under my purview.
CEO, there's no valid permit at this time. There's no active permit.
so I guess this could be sort of speculation where we want to head, but if we're gonna stick to, honoring the numbers that exist, I think it needs to at least be corrected.
Okay. So am I hearing you correctly that you like it to say 4?
Well, let's make sure that's the number, but yes, I think it has to.
Or where
reflect-
does 21?
Understood.
Yeah, we're-
Yeah. And then the second point, I believe Daley made up, and Daley, on your second comment. Later, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the map. Where we have Canaan highlighted, Falls Village Housing Trust Apartments. That seems to be. Correct. Data, at least in terms of that's the only project or pending projects, I guess. Cause again, River Road to me is
Page 19, everyone.
page 17.
Up there.
Yeah.
I think that's
Oh, I see.
mistake.
Yeah, I
because
think
it's
that
like-
dot's right on River Road.
I'm like.
And that's sort of,
Yeah.
that's what the picture sort of leads you to believe, correct? So, those are valid points that way. I think maybe they're clerical. I don't know. It's not something we did ourselves here, but at the very least, I guess if we're gonna
So
possibly approve this, it needs to be accurate at least.
that's fine. The question I have is, what about the map?
So the map almost makes you think that that's the River Road project, if you're looking at the scale and trying to figure out roads and whatnot. It's not necessarily pointing to, downtown area, which would be a little bit more toward to the right of that housing, I think, but that would be Route 7 probably. Anyway, it's maybe just an accuracy issue, but it does give you the impression that River Road is included on that, at least by the map.
And then on this page. Okay. And
I mean,
there,
we could figure it out, it's set up to scale, so we could figure out exactly where that lands, but that's what it looks like to Tame.
Where are the actual 4 apartments?
minor,
Minor and Prospect.
Minor and Prospect?
right at the corner, yeah. One's around the corner, one's more the same property.
Exactly.
Any other comments on the?
So I would just suggest to all of the commissioners to review what's being tasked to the Town Planning and Zoning Commission. So you'll find that on page 8. Because that really is sort of the charter of the document. And if any of these are making sense, or if there's anything that anyone is questioning. I was not at all a participant in the development of this document, so I cannot at all speak to it. There are a few that I question, but I'm more curious for the commissioners if they feel comfortable with what's being proposed as strategies. Do you want a copy?
Everybody get a chance to review that yet?
Yeah.
Steve Reed's. Any comments, questions? Or concerns?
I think we do most of those except for the annual P O C D or housing plan implementation meeting. So we're I don't want to say nine tenths the way there, but we are kind of 9/10 of the way there already. And we did discuss having at least a meeting a year to sort of update or see how our plan is being implemented, and we could tie the idea of housing to that just as easily. So
I agree with that.
I think we're doing all of that.
The one thing I just want to raise is more of when you're playing the role as planning commission versus zoning commission and not crossing the two, because a lot of these strategies look very much in line with what your planning commission hat would be, less so what your zoning commission hat would be when you're analyzing an application. You really have to take the application as fact, and you can't strategize to conserve land, you're just analyzing that application. So just to bear in mind, as a combined commission, sometimes to know, okay, you're acting in the capacity of planning commission versus acting in the capacity of zoning commission. So that's just a comment sort of like overall what I'm bearing in mind in efforts to guide the commission.
Understood. Any other comments?
My only comment is can we, do we adopt this in the resolution, but, do the changes that we want to do, or do we want to find out the changes before we adopt? That would be my only question.
I think I'd like to have the answers first for the commission.
Right.
So maybe we can just table this motion. And I'll work to get answers that I can, if they're, whatever I can get for answers for next month's meeting.
Yes. So then I'd like to make a motion then to table this until our next meeting, because I do feel that information is important, so I'd rather rule on it.
Yeah.
Make that information attached, so I'd like to make that motion.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Bruce, second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Unanimous. Thank you, Daley, for bringing those points forward. All right, also, it's Lori say now, but I would like to add an item to the agenda. I thought we had them all. But the annual report, I think we should adopt it as board. One of these three pieces.
They do not have copies to distribute, just
Did anybody want to talk?
on the record.
Do you want to quick read and update the reasons? Just a
So
quick read.
the one housekeeping thing, move to add the item to the agenda and then add it,
I agree with you.
and then we can discuss.
I totally agree with you. It's as suggested, and I was about to do.
I saw it. I saw your mouth about to move.
Am I getting that motion from Matt? For a second on it, Stephen, all in favor? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm putting it as 3B.
Yeah.
Great.
And item C under separate motion. Oh, all in favor?
We did.
Aye.
Aye.
We already did that. All right, I'm gonna get better at this. I don't know what's going on.
No, we didn't,
Technical,
we didn't know.
well, now,
Okay.
all right. Motion to add, discussion, possible election of secretary and treasurer to the planning and zoning commission.
I'll make a motion, sure.
Stephen, seconded by
I was second.
Matt. Any discussion?
Just a question, when typically are officers added to the roster?
Well, we're gonna bring that up. Typically, we think it's January, but we did it mid-year. And it just came to my attention at the meeting that these two officers were discussed, but somehow action didn't get taken.
Perfect, just curious.
There are minutes that say January.
Yeah.
I
just
couldn't tell
curious.
you exactly which
The
one.
April minutes do say that we discussed voting every January, but we were
Okay,
doing
okay.
housekeeping in that April meeting to get us to the following
So
January.
this is just to see what the commission would like, if they'd like to add, or just wait till January.
I'll let you know.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So item
So that we want to make, would you say 3 what?
C.
3C.
Okay.
So P and Z annual report, thank you, Allison Canal. During the fiscal year 23-24, finalization and approval of the plan of the plan of conservation development update was a top priority of the planning and zoning commission. The 10-year plan sets the stage for the town's future development and policy initiatives. The POCD is an official document which outlines a vision for the future of Falls Village and identifies strategies to help make that vision a reality. The POCD was adopted with an effective date of February 17th, 2024. The P&Z will continue to work on various updates to the town zoning regs in response to the implementation plan of the POCD. The P&Z continue to receive and review a steady stream of applications associated with new single-family home construction and residential improvements, including decks, sheds, and additions. A total of 27 zoning permits were issued administratively. A notable special exception approval was the application of Thomas and Susan Kulis for a 4-lot subdivision situated on BB Hill, with final conditional approval granted on March 28, 2024. All conditions were satisfied. P&Z welcomed some new commissioners and renewed the terms of a few current commissioners. The P and Z also tackled an important update to its zoning regulations, a comprehensive revision of the home business regulations. This amendment made the permit process simpler for shop and stores, contractors, cottage food operations, and minor home businesses. It also allows for residential property to accommodate more than one home business. All major home businesses, which are subject to a special exception, will need to file for renewal every 3 years. Please contact the CEO at said email address if you have any questions or need to properly permit a local home business. P&Z has made efforts to interface regularly with other town agencies and boards with an interest on fulfilling shared opportunities and requirements. Respectfully submitted, Fred Laser, Chairman, Janelle Mullen, CEO, and Commissioners, on behalf of Town of Canaan Planning and Zoning Commission.
That's just been changed to say Fred Laser and Greg Marlowe co-chairs.
Since
for the
you were
record.
appointed in April.
Okay. And just so everybody's up to date and make sure, this is just a snapshot of what we did last fiscal year to put in the town report.
It's fantastic.
Any questions on that? Or did we kind of get the sense of what we did?
I think it's fantastic. So,
Take a motion to submit this to the town clerk on behalf of the planning and zoning.
I'll make a motion.
Stephen, is there a second?
Okay.
Matt is, Doug. That's lawyer. Any discussion? All in
Thank you,
favor?
Alice. That's the discussion.
Yes.
Tangent.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? So moved.
Fantastic.
So that, you just make that change and present it to you.
Done.
She's already done it, so.
Wow.
No.
That's
Send it as PDF to Johanna.
good.
Signs level.
All right, and Secretary and Treasurer, I was not here for that meeting.
I remember that it's.
I was voted in, and it was not a good place, so I don't really want. There was discussion about the officers for Secretary and Treasurer. Stephen, would you like to fill us in?
I look back at my notes and we did discuss, we just never made a motion past making you chair and me vice chair till January. So we did discuss the importance of a treasurer, especially with the Board of Finance stuff. I do remember Doug being discussed as part of that conversation.
Maybe.
But we can bring that up and discuss more. And we talked about making Kim secretary as sort of we don't really have a role yet or what that responsibility is. Or my next question would be, or do we want to wait till January so we can actually structure what these roles are, what we want these positions to fulfill, and discuss it at a later date? But that's the update from the April meeting.
So I would take opinions or comments anybody has. I think I'll lead off by saying I think it would be best and cleaner maybe to wait till January, since we're kind of on the doorstep anyhow. And that'll give us some time to, I love the idea of what is the role. So we actually.
Or expectation, just so the person knows before they accept that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Role.
So if anybody.
Sure.
that was, it's the first I've heard of that. So yes, I would like to know what that role is.
That's what happens when you miss a meeting.
People that promote it years.
Does anybody feel strongly that we should act now other than Doug and Kim?
No, I think it'd be wise to define it. I mean, I know it used to be, right? It was part of the commission years ago, I believe, officers. Yeah, let's do a little research, dig it out and see what the roles are.
So something to add, yeah, just so after uncovering the bylaws, which are circa 1968, the officers and their duties is described under Article V. And what I would suggest, or Roman numeral, like, as a millennial, I'm like, what? What I would suggest too, with the opportunity to define our officers, maybe take a peek at the bylaws and see how you feel about them, because some of them we might want to update. And if we're doing this sort of housekeeping, it might be great. According to the bylaws, we are having meetings the third Monday of every month at 7:30. So we might want to just look at this comprehensively on top of the officers that we might be adding and just update this entire document. Does everyone have this? Great.
And that
Given out
one
at the last
doesn't
meeting.
even, that doesn't even provide for the treasurer.
Exactly,
So there's a
exactly.
lot of,
Things,
I'm not sure I did get one.
why don't I, before I start writing all over it, why don't I make
I'll
you a
write
copy?
over, that's okay.
I added a T to the bottom, but I'll make you a copy.
so the P and Z
Thank you.
checkbook.
Oh, that's.
Why do you- So why, what's the treasurer?
Or not,
What does the treasurer do?
and that's something that's kind of a question we would have as well. Maybe follow the finances, what's.
Well, the idea is that they would talk to and keep up with the bills.
So just
I mean, it usually was the chair that did that.
Sort of spreading out that responsibility. Plus the Board of Finance is gonna ask for our commission to come before them to present our needs, our wants, and what our line items do mean, so maybe our treasurer is that representation in that meeting. Yeah, that's what we need to sort of discuss or come up with.
Oh, no, you hit the power button on the switch, just that red one by your foot.
I'm so sorry. Did I make it go?
No, that's all right. The owl went away, but I think it's coming back.
I could.
Take it to the first room.
Take the blame.
So I think that's what
First time in here.
we're gonna try to figure out, or do we want one
That's
person to
amazing.
do the whole, is what we were trying to come up with in that sort of April meeting. And then just never went further. But I do think we should establish that, especially if they aren't even represented in our bylaws, as well as changing that third weekend or third Thursday.
Matters, are you all right?
No, we're not.
We're off.
We're offline.
I did.
It's gonna be back, it just booted.
Ruth,
Yeah, I think we're good.
Ruth, can you
Yep.
hear us?
Yeah, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we had a little owl. It
Yeah.
flew away.
Can you guys hear me?
I hear you, Vince.
Okay, I just figured that out.
All right, so it sounds like no action. We'll work on trying to come up with a.
Well, I was gonna say, do we want to make a motion to put that on our next meeting
I would love that.
agenda?
That's great.
So yeah, so I'd like to make a motion to continue this conversation and actually put it on our agenda for next month to discuss the bylaws and discussion of job responsibilities, or all, I should say, officer responsibilities.
And interview dates.
Yes. And just to, it would be good for us to update 1968
So soon?
It's nice to find something actually older.
Yeah, I can't say that.
Hey,
You can say
39 again.
you're in good company. All right, moving along, the old business.
There was a motion, was it seconded or voted?
Geez, I'm off my game. Is there a second of that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Doug. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Next month, I'm gonna take a nap if they're not.
I'll bring you a coffee.
All right, village moving along. I'm just so anxious to move along. Old business, village center parking plans, no update. I'm still waiting from AEA for. Reason. Yeah.
He's busy.
It's not.
No, I get it, but
They just all are.
great.
Yeah.
We'll stay after him and one. Hopefully, next month we have some information or some work for this committee. Firehouse sale update, there was supposed to be a meeting today, we had to postpone it till next week due to a lack of quorum. Working through the details, seems we're at the septic, trying to figure out what's there, so Chris and I can tag teaming that a little bit, and Dave and Alice, and not enough people because we don't quite have the answer yet, but we're getting closer. So every day we seem to find a new clue. And Chris committed out of the basement today, so I'm happy to see him here. I scared he
Did
might
he
go.
find anything? Greg, did he find?
Oh, he did not go? No. He did not go.
So he's,
It does.
which is why he's here.
I know, that was so it's my fault.
Downstairs, there's two sides actually. Okay, so that's kind of what we have on Firehouse.
Did you call John?
So I did one better. I found the guy who installed it for John.
Oh.
And Chris and I hope we'll meet with him next week.
Greg, when is the meeting?
I haven't said it yet, but I'm probably gonna try for next Thursday again.
Same time?
Yes,
What
Okay.
is that time for the record?
3 o'clock next Thursday. It'll be put on the website.
Okay.
And I'll email out to the committee as well, Rich.
Okay.
Just need to confirm, honestly, I haven't had a chance to even see if that works for me yet, but I think it would. So that's the update on Firehouse. Alice, do you have anything you'd like to offer on that? That's pretty much it.
I think that's, I think
Summed it
I
up.
filled you in. I think you're all filled in, yeah.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Solar committee update, item C, no update. This is still, at some point, we'll get some information and maybe over the winter we can slowly work our way back into it. There's no sun in the winter, there's no pressure. But I think we should still keep that on the agenda moving forward, just so we can keep track of it. Now, the exciting part of the evening, regulations review. Item A, trailer camps and trailer parks, regulations for ordinance. Janelle had put together a 4-page document. I have an extra copy somehow.
Does anyone need a copy? I'm ready to give some away. I'll have one. I forgot mine.
Do you want one in color? I mean, mine has color.
Yours has color.
Yeah.
I already, no, I have it. Okay, I have it.
I don't know, I think I must have it.
Chairman, do you want me to give an overview? Okay, so, I was called to a meeting with the Board of Selectmen to discuss the current town ordinance that was last revised in 2007 and originally adopted in 1968. Our regulations, the zoning regulations, does not go into great detail about governing trailers. It just references this ordinance. So in light of some recent questions and land use issues, for lack of a better term, we convened to discuss where the ordinance is today and where it may need to go. The takeaway from that discussion with the Board of Selectmen was truly, they feel that the ordinance would better serve the town as a zoning regulation. Zoning regulations are tied to an enforcement officer, they're tied to dimensional requirements, the commission, and I was in complete agreement with the board that, or the Board of Selectmen rather than the commission, the Board of Selectmen, that P and Z and the regulations would probably be a better fit. I recently have worked in other towns that are tackling similar situations, so trailers definitely are a topic that come up again and again, and that we've seen some evolution of trailers, more so to storage containers, food trucks, various things. So the conversation was really around bringing the regulation to the zoning commission and then also adopting regulations that would encompass more uses beyond just your typical recreational trailer, storage trailer, camp trailer. So our current examples, just to give that little background about locally what's gone on, 2 property owners in town, disparate questions, disparate lots. One wants to establish a recreational trailer purely for recreation, no intention to build a home, literally just want to come up on the weekends, hang out, camp, get away. Other property owner wants to establish a trailer, live in it, get a sense of where to put a house, get a sense of where to put other activity on the property, have another trailer for storage, and eventually build a house. So within our current ordinance, they're tricky to fit. They're tricky as far as gaining compliance, and then as far as applying fees, our ordinance just makes no sense. So I've put together a relatively brief memo just offering some really broad suggestions around what I would potentially do just to address some of the considerations. One would be to take great care to continue expanding on our definitions. So section 8, we've added many terms to really clean up the regulations and make sure we're defining a lot of terms. The consideration would be to add more definitions under the general concept of trailers so that we can discern their use and whether or not they're authorized. So I've pulled definitions: commercial trailer, construction trailer, mobile home, which is an important concept that is actually protected by general statute. Mobile homes have to be permitted in the same manner as single family residence, and that term, I think we think of it historically differently than the way mobile home is actually defined. It's truly just a prefab modular house. So they're actually much more widespread than we think, but we do need to make sure we're permitting them akin to the same exact way we're permitting single family residence. Recreational trailer, very much like that Route 7 situation. It's purely a movable structure that you use for temporary dwelling if you're traveling, recreating, etc. And then storage trailer, the whole concept of using a private trailer to store goods, equipment, and or vehicles. Then we get into this whole food truck concept, temporary non-residential restaurant trailers, and then utility trailers. Honestly, I look at that as a by right use, just like a boat, horse, flat trailer. We use them, we need them. We're in agricultural land. We all love to have our boat and our horse. So not looking to over govern trailers, but definitely looking to make sure that our regulating is logical, helpful, and not punitive in any way. Then incorporating the uses into the zoning regulations, it's just suggested that they are sprinkled throughout the permitted principal use chapters, where we get into our residential uses, our business and industrial uses, and then finally our rural business zone. So I just suggested sort of what typical permits should be permitted in what particular zones and how. So hopefully this will be relatively straightforward, but different permits in different zones based upon the general expectation that if you're living in a residential zone versus in a business zone. If you're in a business zone, you might see a food truck, but you might not see a temporary trailer for habitation. So I know I just threw a lot at everyone. Hopefully you've had a little bit of time to digest this, but if you have questions or comments, I'm really open.
Well, go ahead. One, it's interesting, we've had an ordinance with so many spelling mistakes in the tagline, in the pipeline. That's amazing. Great words. Portmanteau.
Portmanteau, it's French.
Portmanteau.
Portmanteau.
Great word, French, great French. I'm a little bit confused on mobile home. So we have factory built housing, prefab modular. When I hear that, I think Sagala turnkey type of modular units that come, Crane puts them together on a, I think maybe where the answer is on a permanent foundation.
Yeah.
That, under that definition, when I think of mobile home, I think of the tin going down the road with two of the axles. Like it's put on like sometimes a concrete slab, sometimes concrete cinder block, sometimes block type of thing, which I thought somehow was not allowed in this town.
So that is very likely the case that is on the books, but if it's on a permanent slab, it would not be in line with Connecticut general statutes.
So the definition of permanent slab would be
permanent foundation.
So not concrete block.
I would look at what the building code says for permanent foundation.
And okay. I just don't know exactly what that means either.
I can't quote.
Does anybody else?
No, that was one of my questions.
Because I think we had a few of the old what I would describe as mobile homes that were like, I heard grandfathered in, but I think one is definitely gone. That was at the end of Prospect Street, right, or my.
Where's the one near the post office?
That
And
one,
the one on Warren Turnpike.
and then there's one on Warren Turnpike, which is now, I think, gone too.
Yeah.
So I think they're both down.
Oh, what's his name? Dad used to live there? Wasn't he in the fire department? Who am I thinking of? You know,
Bruce.
yeah.
Well, that's, it was, it's so built around now, it doesn't,
So
I'm just
no,
bringing it up for discussion.
my thinking is around that, so there was a big movement when, and this was before my time, when mobile manufactured home parks were a big thing and also like concern. So mobile homes were looked at and regarded by state law in a very different way. And then it looks like from my learning and from Connecticut statutes, there were updates so that mobile home is then referred to in general statutes, and it shall be deemed to mean or refer to a mobile manufactured home. So we are sort of beholden to whatever the state's definition is, which is the one that's referenced in the document. I can reference the exact statute that comes from, but essentially in 8-2, chapter 124, it reads, zoning commission shall not prohibit mobile homes pursuant to this definition. So essentially, we can't say your manufactured home to be brought in on wheels can, like, we would need to, in accordance with statute, permit that in the same way as a single family home. It's broadened the definition of mobile home. I think what we tend to think of historically is that concept of like a mobile home park. And we actually, with a mobile home, if let's just say anyone wanted to pick up a mobile home and bring it to this town and put it on a permanent foundation, I cannot enforce that they were to remove that. There's dimensions that they have to be, and I can look at the statute to make sure that it's completely aligned with all of those details. So it's really, really clean. But I think it's important to note that's one of those weird clauses in 8-2 that's been updated over the years, that you cannot prohibit mobile homes. A lot of towns prohibit either mobile homes or mobile home parks. It was a thing of the 60s and the 70s.
I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at that link I sent you. It just happened to be about trailers this month, whatever, but so I printed out a couple. This one is from Old Saybrook. And just in terms of mobile home, it seems that the definition can be pretty flexible, viable. Compared to our definition, theirs says a movable or portable dwelling built on a chassis and which has been or may be mounted or moved on wheels, connected to utilities and designed without a permanent foundation for a year-round occupancy. That's just opposite of what we're thinking here. So I don't know, is that just the
That's the same one.
openness of the definition? You can define it as you want, or is this?
So I actually look at that as the same as the definition here. Because the consideration, it moves at some point in its existence because it's manufactured off-site and
Has to
then
be
it's
brought
brought.
here. Yeah.
So it's mobile at some point in time. So I actually find what that Old Saybrook definition and what the definition on the draft, it's
Very similar.
the same.
Janelle, I've got a question for you. We ran into this a very, very long time ago, and I'm not sure if that trailer still exists. What is the difference between a slab and a permanent foundation under a trailer?
So Greg raised that question earlier, and what I would say is I would look to my building official to inform me of what he would consider as a permanent foundation. I assume it's gonna have frost walls and it's gonna be a bit more than concrete blocks, wheels, or a slab of just like compacted crushed stone and maybe some pavement.
Okay, one of the things that came up is who pays taxes. this is from a while ago. That if the
So-
house was movable, that it wasn't considered a permanent residence in town and therefore not taxed.
So not to get too in the tax weeds, because we're not that commission or board, nor is that our purview.
Yeah.
I would argue at that moment in time that the assessor is out at that lot, if that improvement is on that lot, that is an improvement assigned to that lot. And I would tax it as the square footage in the same manner and multiplier that they're doing that with any other structures.
Yeah, well, it came up to us because there was some kind of contention. The person who owned the trailer was saying that it wasn't a permanent structure and therefore couldn't be taxed, and they were coming to us for definitions. This has got to be 20 years ago.
I'm
So,
not shocked at all. Dublin Road maybe is in people's recent memory. When I first joined the town of Falls Village, I remember having some conversation around the ghosts of trailers past along that road.
Yeah.
I'm not shocked by that at all. There's a lot more in statute and in the zoning enabling act to guide us on this issue. Because there was a period in time when trailers were definitely looked upon unfavorably, and we're evolving our thinking because many houses are actually manufactured homes, factory built, moved, brought to a site, and then plunked down. So not to get too hung up on all the variations of mobile manufactured homes, but we can certainly tie in the Connecticut general statutes that require us to permit them exactly the same as zoning permits.
So you had read on the end of Old Saybrook, something about on a chassis and put on a slab. Could you just,
Well,
that
would-
one little bit, one?
You guys feel like it's pretty close, but the distinguishing factor is the Saybrook one says designed without a permanent foundation. And we're saying on ours that it will be placed on a,
And that's what I heard when you read that.
Right.
That's why I asked you to read. it.
that's the distinction. So
And I
it's
do
really
think,
not,
I do think that's important because. And again, I guess it's just, we have to figure out state statute versus that definition, and that's an active. That's active, Old Saybrook's
both
active.
Saybrook, yeah.
Design, the key is the term is it's designed without a permanent foundation. You bring it to a site for the permanent foundation.
That's what I was thinking.
That-
Once it's there, it's on a.
What that statute, I think, is,
You
or what
can't-
their definition is trying to say.
You have to look
The
at the
definition becomes
foundation.
Stephen?
It's the definition between a floor, so a mobile home will have its own floor on a chassis on wheels. You put block around it, or you put that on a foundation of some kind, but that's the floor. As opposed to a prefabbed home that is brought, constructed on a slab, which would then be the floor. And I think that's why they're trying to make that distinction,
Yeah.
because that little part shows you the difference between a modular prefab home and a actual quote unquote mobile home.
And that one sentence really jumps out at me as being the case.
Yes.
But they don't need frost walls and all that kind of stuff down North Central.
Just.
Yeah, they really break them into specific, so on the next page for theirs, it talks about mobile home and mobile manufactured home. Talks about mobile manufactured home by itself. And then down below, it talks a little bit more about any manufactured home having certain dimensions that would qualify it as either
House.
a temporary type facility or whatever, or something built for more permanent use. And it was a minimum 22 feet, and yeah, they give you all the
That
dimensions.
ties into the statute definition, so they're all tying back to that statute definition, essentially. It's all just a reiteration of that statutory definition, which I can pull. I'm looking for it right now, because it's very specific about just what we have to do. And I like tying, if there's a pre-existing definition that we also have to conform with, I do like to pull that definition. There's really no need to get creative because we can't enforce it in any different way as a statutory town.
That's understood. However, I think in our definitions, if something could be defined one way or the other, because I don't see the state as being perfectly clear, at least on first read for me.
Agreed.
I definitely need to reread that, and I will look at that, and thank you, Doug, for bringing that forth, that link.
Well, what I really appreciate too is
This is everything.
the distinction between the mobile manufactured home versus, was the other term, the mobile home.
Yeah, they actually break it into three. So mobile home and mobile manufactured. And then a little bit further down, it gets into actually defining it by dimension.
Yeah, that's,
So you have at least two
Yeah.
major categories that you can.
So maybe that answers at least my initial
You know,
question.
years ago, this is, I'm dating myself here, but years ago in New Hampshire, we had a place on one of the lakes up there, and it was a trailer my mother bought and brought in. Everybody did. It was a campsite. But if you were going to be there for more than seasonal use and not take it out, you literally had to take the wheels off it and build a foundation under it. Now it's a permanent, and that's where the taxation came in, and, you know, everything. So I don't know if anything still exists like that, but that was sort of the distinguishing factor. Take the wheels off it and now it's permanent.
Well, that's why I think with this definition, it needs to become permanent once it gets to the site. So I don't think they'd be able to pick it up and leave unless they were, you know, moving.
Right.
But because you know, presumably movable is a recreation vehicle, not the mobile home.
Did the selectmen have anything to say to know about that particular item?
we did not get that deep into the mobile home versus the mobile manufactured home. Just upon having this discussion, it sounds like it would probably be astute to bring the mobile home definition and the mobile manufactured home definition to the table. And then also, I like to just reference statute, so I would like to pull the reference to the statute where mobile home gets defined. I actually have the exact same old Silbrook definitions that Doug's looking at, because I thought they had done a really great job with their clarity in their definitions. So I'd like to bring both mobile home, mobile manufactured home to make sure that we're aligning, and then to bring the definitions, what statute is saying as well verbatim, because I don't have that right in front of me nor memorized. You know.
I just wanted to ask Janelle, the construction trailer and the storage trailer. These definitions, will they affect the definitions for our home-based business, storage and construction?
So I don't see it as affecting the definition. I see it as something that might be a component of a home business.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because we just did that one. I didn't want, I don't want to make sure that we're not somehow changing a definition because we just approved something. Great.
Yeah, no, it's a great question.
I tried to look at it and I couldn't figure out if it was different or not. So
If you remember, a big discussion around home business was external storage. So hopefully, maybe in enabling storage trailers and or commercial trailers, then we can do away with some of the external storage that can cause consternation to neighbors.
That's what I was hoping. So.
And then also with commercial trailer, what might be interesting is, are we allowing a commercial trailer in a non-commercial zone?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask, how we connect that to the residential business. So I'm nervous about that. And that's why I liked when you said that you wanted to create a special residential regulation section so that we could actually remove it and define it a little better. So I was kind of, with those two issues brought into this, I wanted to make sure that we defined it differently in the residential zone, because I was nervous about those being added and how they could affect.
Yeah, and very intentionally, that's why that commercial trailer definition reads used for commercial related purposes and associate with a permissible commercial use.
That's why I wanted to ask, and I wondered if that was more about a building permit as opposed to just someone using the space that way. And I didn't know how we should define that differently, or if we were comfortable with it the way it was written.
It's a great question, because we might actually want to consider broadening the definition so that commercial trailers might even be a trailer used with a permissible commercial and or home business use.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, that's a great question.
You know, probably, I mean, people are building homes out of shipping containers now.
Yeah,
So you know, you start with one, you put on another in a year or whatever, and so you almost have to think about that as well, right?
absolutely.
As a possible building site, which would be all legit, I assume, but still.
Well, as long as there's a slab.
It's permissible now by zoning, building code. Using shipping containers as of the code update that was like a year ago.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating.
So
Yeah, I have to get the details of that, but I'll ask my buddy and Warren, who's been a zoning or a code enforcement, building code enforcement officer for years. Yeah, he rolled his eyes.
so my question is, are we gonna try to just read through this stuff this meeting? Are we trying to accept any of these definitions?
Great
I don't think we're even
question.
close to accepting and
Great.
opinion. I think we're just
Discuss.
discussing and
Great.
getting some points to work on.
Fantastic.
So it sounds like mobile manufactured home, mobile home, we're working on. Any further?
And how we define construction trailer, just to be a little more specific. Because I want to make sure that we're putting that right in the residential zone when it comes to home-based business.
Got it, great.
And- Yeah, I'm just waiting.
Sorry, I read.
Just waiting for you to doodle.
You could feel the eyes.
Why are we-
Writing badly.
Why are we, could you back up to the food truck? Why we're discussing food trucks? Is that more to keep them from? I don't understand that the trucks are other than. That's
No real reason, only it should fall into trailers because they tend to be in that form and they do cause sometimes question. And we are very mute on them now, so because we're mute in them, in the regulations, they're not permissible. So if anyone were to come to me and say, hey, CEO, there's a food truck, and we've all enjoyed food trucks in the center of town. And if they're like, is this allowed?
So help me out to understand that question. So allowed as far as like Greg's Burgers and Fries? Summer Enterprise, I have it parked in my yard. I can go to the center of Falls Village and feed Janelle and Chris on a Sunday afternoon, and then I go to Goshen on another day, and I go to Litchfield. Or is that where we're going with that? Like, where are we going with?
That's a great
I
question.
think well, I was more concerned about, we needed to define this, or I thought it was more important, because people are putting them on all sorts of parts of people's property. Like there was a food truck across from the Interlake in this summer that was there for all summer long. So these trailers or these things, because sometimes they're even just a dog park is a trailer. So I think what we have to make sure of is where we're going to allow, if we're going to create a trailer ordinance. I think a food truck trailer, where is that allowed? Is it light industrial? It's not for storage on your property. It's where are we allowing that to then be a
Pizza Hut.
yes.
Yeah.
And it's more of,
I missed the.
there's so many spots where you could actually just literally pull up and go. And I think that's you have to make sure, because if a business wanted to have it for the summer and park it in their parking spots, we would need to.
So they would have to be approved by Torrington Area Health.
Correct.
There's other people involved, but we want to make sure our regulations, because you could have someone pop it up on Route 7 if we create a village business zone, and all of a sudden there's a restaurant, seasonal restaurant.
Yeah, think of Pasture in Morris, where the center of town where there's a food truck little park. And then Sharon's had some things pop up here and there. And then, there's that coffee truck in Torrington. There's, yeah. They pop up and sometimes they.
Hilltown Pies in Egremont was a huge thing,
People
and
ask
it was
questions.
super busy and tons of people, and it was a food truck, for lack of a better
Yeah.
term, they cooked in 2 food
So,
trucks.
so it's not pertaining to the ice cream truck that comes here when we have a function in town.
No, it would be more for something permanent that would be
Okay.
used within the community, yes.
But that's true, the time frame that they actually sit
Stay
there.
there, yeah.
Should be also a consideration as to the where. Like, am I there for 3 days during the week? Am I there every weekend? Am I there every other weekend? I mean, I think that's important to know too. As opposed to
Yeah.
just showing up for a car
Yeah.
show
Mhm.
and giving ice cream out that night and we never see them again until.
You take the
The
week
next-
off.
And that
That's
is,
the function.
yeah, and
We've
that
got
is
functions.
to like fold it in as to that whole event.
Yeah.
As like its own
Yes,
event, like it's
right.
just a part
One
of
and
that
done.
event.
One and
Yeah,
done.
yeah. This more so of like every Sunday,
Yeah.
the donut truck shows up at da 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 da.
And it does
We
say used for permitted outdoor residential use. So that we're saying that it is gonna be used as a business in our community.
Sabrick calls it a temporary non-residential restaurant trailer.
That's what we call it here. in ours.
Temporary non-residential.
Wheel trailer used for permitted outdoor
Yeah,
restaurant.
that's
use.
exactly what Janelle pulled from.
Yeah.
That's not what I pulled
Oh,
from, but
It's
that,
exactly the
this
same
is,
that you have.
this is a lot of work of various towns.
But I think that that's what we're trying to,
It's for sale. It doesn't say like temporary non-residential trailers can be used for storage, restaurant facilities.
Right.
Does facilities sort of cover that?
Yeah, that's what I would assume.
Assume?
I know what
Okay.
you mean.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's just an odd way to say
I
it.
agree. I
Okay.
agree. I see ya.
Chairman Kinsella, would you like to comment on that?
Just a question. Does any of them cover, like if, somebody owned the food truck, Smiley's Wieners or something next to, you know, there would be parked in someone's driveway, right?
I see what you're, like, let's say you own Smiley's Wieners
Right,
and you wanna go home.
and my neighbor didn't like to looking at the trailer,
Can it be parked in his yard?
parked in my yard.
as a home-based business, yes, it
Home-based
can be
business.
parked in your yard.
Yeah,
According
it-
to the regulations that we just put forth, yes, trailers, it would be just like a contractor's trailer or a landscaper's trailer. It's,
Taking it out?
it would be, it depends on where
It would
in
be
the
a-
community, but it would be a special permit based on where it would be.
Not necessarily.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, that example is an interesting one, cause that is not a home-based business, cause the business isn't occurring at home. It's more of like the parking of a commercial vehicle at a private residence,
Yeah.
which is allowed.
But should be
Yeah.
behind some sort of.
Lawnmower.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yeah, it's Garrett Scavato. It-
Somebody that drives for
Bonds.
or if it was-
Swan's just stopped.
Yeah, or if you drive
Oh,
home
right,
and you have your Uber light in your car, cause you happen to drive for Uber rurally, very rurally.
Smiley.
What about like, I remember when the fellow in Cornwall that drove a trailer truck for somebody and used to park it down at the corner of 43 and 63.
Oh.
And,
Whose property, DOT's?
no, actually it was, well, it should be right there, that pull off. Either that or the Hallmark Club.
All I know is after watching what's gone on in Thomaston with the regulation of commercial vehicles and how they tax commercial vehicles, I don't wanna go there. Cause it disincentivizes working class people from going home at night into the town where they pay their taxes. So just anecdotally, from what I've experienced, I don't look to explore the regulation of commercially parked vehicles. For me, it's like, we need an economy. But that's like very anecdotal and not at all,
Well,
impartial, professional.
Chris is probably on that page in terms of like farming and stuff. You must have very large carrying things for cows or whatever or hay or something, right? I mean, you should be able to have that big.
As CEO, if I got a call
Yeah,
from
yeah, see
Mr.
it.
Smiley's
that.
neighbor and he was irate
You'd never
because he
know.
had to look at the wiener truck every day, I would basically say, I'm sorry. But maybe talk to your neighbor about screening if it offends you very much, but I wouldn't really wanna go much deeper than that. Yeah, great question.
Selling the hot dogs from the driveway or wherever you're parking it,
Yes, it would.
right? If you're just parking it there, like your work vehicle and driving
Yeah.
it to an
Yeah.
event.
I wish my neighbor drove the LL Bean boot.
Yeah, he set up in the front yard and the chief was out there and sell ice cream hot dogs and that for every day.
Yeah,
That'd be a different.
Very different.
Very
Yeah.
different.
oh, very
Man,
different.
shut down the little lemonade.
The lemonade stand, I'm turning my blind eye.
Listening to language, but it's business.
Mhm.
Active.
I would add that, did you have injuries in?
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
the difference of the whole.
Yeah.
Active in that place, or,
Tell me.
you know,
it's
your home
easy.
office for your landscaping business, or your construction business is based on that. Then yes, there's different
They
requirements.
sold money
different
driveway.
use values.
So maybe that's not the.
Are driving your truck there and that kind of stuff. Sure, right, so if they get to what, you want, I mean, right, where you have to look at the thing and bring. Issues that talk to every hour, right? Definitely two different characteristics of that. That's, just saying that same truck, like, in the same, it really can spin on its head, and between a home-based business and. Commercial person coming home and leaving, you know, being able to come home at night to their tax paid property. Compared to opening for business on a Wednesday.
So if said
Food truck.
wiener, happy wieners.
Let's move on.
But no, but if they were producing that food in the house, that would be a cottage industry, a
Right.
food cottage
Right.
industry, so.
And allowed.
And allowed,
Yeah.
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 Mhm. Absolutely,
We've
and
come
the,
across some interesting stuff by actually.
yeah,
Can I make a
Um,
suggestion?
Yes.
Can we, just to move on a little bit, take it as a homework assignment?
I love that.
I think if you go into that link I gave you and start looking at some of the towns, you can pull up a half a dozen that are posting their regs. You want to sort through them a little bit. It might help us to find some of the categories and whatnot based on other people's. And there are cities and towns too, but I would ask that you had mentioned the statute. If you could send that to us.
yeah.
That's a good starting point, because we have to live by that anyway. But maybe by next month, we come in with
Better, better.
our assignments done.
I do want to do that. I do, before we move on, though, want to ask under 2.2 permitted principal uses. Thornton Area Health District approval shall also be required. Is that a normal? Requirement? That would be for item number 2, right, or example number 2. Is that what that's saying?
So it's stating the obvious, so that people don't think they can just set up a trailer and that, because sanitary systems are very important. This came up, the Kristen Whitbeck example on Music Mountain with the temporary habitation of a property with 0 sanitation systems. So it's inherently implied, and I feel the need to call it out.
Excellent.
And it also is good to put it in there so that the person knows that there's other people that they're gonna have to talk to about this and they get sign offs.
Yeah,
And,
Can I bring in a porta potty?
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Well, that's
thinking
still
about the
Thornton
music.
that- yeah, that was-
Yes, that's true towards engineer health. Yes, you can.
yeah.
lastly, where was I lastly? So you gave 2 examples that are current in Falls Village. Whether they're not even under our purview. Anything moving forward, has there been agreements made with these people
Yes.
by the Board of Selectmen, or the first selectmen sign off, I would assume?
So the way that it was left was, there's no trailer currently on one of the property owners' property. They would be using it for temporary habitation. in the event that they want to build a home, so that would fall under
Yeah, understood,
the current ordinance with a weird fee. And that's yet to happen. And then the other example, by February is when all the renewals happen. The Board of Select had made note that I would be reaching out to Route 7 to check in on
well,
the
not,
situation.
and I guess I'm just jumping a little bit ahead there, I think not so fast. Because that was pre-existing. If we do act on this. So that should fall under the ordinance,
Existing,
which should fall under the Board of
which
Selectmen.
I don't have any authority.
Right,
Um,
so I'm just, something maybe for those present to think about. Is the timing, because I think it's almost a by right, if it was, well, actually, if it was against an ordinance, that's not the planning and zoning. If we change our regulations on November of 2024, and it was already there, then I think it's covered by the ordinance, not the regulation.
So to be clear, if it's not permissible within the current regulations, it's not by right. It's not a legal conforming, non-conforming use because it predates regulations. It's actually a non-permissible use. Because we
You're
don't,
using example number 1 is.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, because we don't act.
but that's not really under us, it's more under the ordinance of, well, actually, I guess it is under us.
It's odd because the way that the fees are set up, name the P and Z and the Board of Select, so it's very problematic because the Board of Select is the issuing authority, they are supposed to have licensed any and all trailers that are allowed. Upon looking at the background information, First Selectman Barger stated that he has no record of any trailer ever being issued this approval. And does not have any memory of anyone wishing to put a trailer on their property coming before the Board of Selectmen. I believe that might be your experience as well.
No,
Like you never discussed trailers at Board of Selectmen meeting. So there have been no instances when the ordinance was ever even utilized. So again, to emphasize the point, it's been on the books for decades and has never actually been a useful tool for not only collecting fees, but just to deem compliance.
and the last point, and we definitely move on, is the ordinance is in place. We will, in essence, if we act on this as planning and zoning, will take place of that ordinance. How do we, what's the, do we have anything to do with that, or is that all Board of Selectmen, the ordinance?
So it's
You know what I mean, because we're kind of superseding or.
So it was a great question. It came up during the meeting. What would happen on the effective date? Should this commission workshop and put some regulations on the books? Upon the effective date, the Board of Selectmen would act upon basically dissolving, for lack of a better term, or rescinding the existing ordinance that's on the book. And basically just saying that the zoning regulations now supersede any ordinance that was historic.
And I promise this is gonna be the last point. I asked a question about Janelle meeting with the Board of Selectmen because we, at budget time, we're concerned about
Agree.
pay.
Yeah, whose hourly is that?
And I think the conclusion of our conversation is a good conclusion in that really the zoning enforcement officer, yes, works for planning and zoning, but it really works for the town. So the Board of Selectmen, I think, falls within that it's our budget line, but I think that I think the argument was a good argument that will, because it also sometimes it's with the conservation of, as well, or another group. So
And we did,
it's for the good of the town, so she doesn't work for the planning and zoning necessarily. It comes out of her budget, but she works for the town of Canaan.
and we did increase that line item this year in the budget. We took it out of the consult part and put it in our CEO thing. So if I remember.
All for the same.
But
Right, I just meant if they wanted to call it the part of the CEO, we did increase that part of it.
it's just so we're the members.
Yeah, and
It's
just
all in one.
like another example, very often the Board of Selectmen or the first selectman will get questions from OPM about compliance with updates to statutory requirements that are very specific to P and Z. And without question, as my role in ZEO, if there's ever question around enforcement or anything, I am always going to work on behalf of the town to make sure that we're complying with those requirements. So I don't come to this commission asking permission to fulfill an OPM requirement because it's sort of overarching. We need to do it, we need to satisfy that. I just look at that as a part of my role.
Sure.
And I prefer open channels of communication and to be a resource. Granted, if all residents in town were tapping me and asking questions, I wouldn't, go out of my own necessarily.
Excellent discussion.
Trailer for, say if Greg had a trailer set up over at Century for like office. I mean, I've seen some large businesses,
Like temporary office, if
no, like more permanent, like we're not gonna build a structure, so they just kind of plant a trailer there
That's a
and.
really good example.
yeah, it's a great example. Like schools do that sometimes. So never really. Wait, what? What was the jitter?
Moving on.
You saw about.
So, Alice, is there a term that you're sort of thinking of?
No, I'm just wondering, I'm
Yeah.
seeing a lot of trailer definitions, I'm just not seeing where I saw anything that pertains.
Yeah, I
to
know
that.
what you're saying.
Construction trailers.
What about commercial?
Job, they always call them job.
They
trailers.
keep calling it transportation, supply or storage, they call it equipment and supply storage, I haven't seen one that's like office use.
And or office construction trailer.
Uh,
But that's approved construction project, and that might not be a construction project. I see what you're saying.
it could be like a forever, instead of a long term, it could be,
I know.
I don't know if you care about it, I really
I
don't.
would look at it as a structure, to be honest with you.
So even if it's mobile, you would look at it as a structure, I mean movable, like,
Yeah,
Like
like a
it's
tiny
not
house,
planted
I
on
would
the-
look at it as
it's not planted
structure.
on a foundation.
Tiny house on wheels, I'd look at it as a structure.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I just didn't know if it needed to be addressed anywhere.
Maybe we need to just make it obvious. I had to write that down.
So done.
Yeah,
So,
I'm adding that.
Any further?
One addition to the homework assignment, just really the permissible uses. The second section, which was sort of the meat of everything, where these would be allowed and how is really a big part of it. We did not get too deep into that, so I think we're gonna start there and then dig into wordsmithing the definitions.
Excellent.
Great.
Great job. Item number B, village business zone expansion, another light topic.
Oh gosh. So the main, do you wanna start, Greg?
Well, is everybody kind of up to date where we are with this, or where we, how we got here?
I looked at it, but I'm not sure.
So this was kind of going back pre-COCD, where we're trying to do a couple things all at once. We're trying to encourage flexibility within the village zone for like a home, kind of like an example. I think there's like a first floor commercial, second floor residential type of living the way
Yeah,
kind of it
yeah, yeah.
used to be around here.
Yeah, I attended that walk around
Yeah,
with
yes,
Doug and
yeah, perfect.
Dave and all that.
And, currently we have, it's hard to see this map a little bit, but we kind of have created spot zoning. Where, it could be used as an example, Rothschild community or something. It's a big map. But, so it's kind of like it's allowed here, it's allowed here, it's allowed here.
Mm-hmm.
And something that we've always tried to do since I've been on the commission is try not to spot zone. So it could help. So,
This is like a good one.
so we have some spots that are, different zone within it, so it would more uniformly allow it around the village center for, multiple reasons. With The zoning permits, and it's so outlined by right, by zoning permit, by special permits.
Okay, so this is what's current right
That's
here.
correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We have, and the proposed would make it more uniform throughout what we call what's it, the village business. Village residential business zone. Which is now currently,
Does it stop there because that is no longer considered in the village? Like, why does it stop at this property?
That's the bank.
No, that's the bank, but like, yeah, why does it stop here? Cause this is a property, this is a property.
Oh, I see, I see.
So does that leave the village?
So that, I'm assuming is Rapshaw?
No, I'm just asking why it stops here.
Why it's not, why it's not residential.
Why doesn't it go out? Yeah, why does it stop there? Now, I'm not looking at a specific property, but
I
like,
think we were going by the village business.
okay,
Yeah,
so that's sort of where the village
center.
ends.
And I do recall, now we're going back a long time, so these are great questions to refresh all of us. So we actually went kind of almost property by property and argued in how, why not.
Okay,
So that's a great question.
that was my only, just looking over, that's.
And please, anybody who was part of it, jump in if I'm wrong, but I think it was kind of just the current. What, we based it off the village.
I think it was,
Zone, right, the village map, the village zone map. What properties are considered the village proper or something along those
on the
lines?
main just thinking through the main
Some
corridors,
outside.
really big.
This
Well,
one.
that went out a little bit now.
Because I think you got, I wasn't
No,
a
there's.
member during that, but I'm assuming that you probably expanded it to make sure you covered the businesses that were along Route 7,
Exactly.
such as the sawmill and
Yes,
those sorts of
exactly.
things.
Yes,
But
that's
you
what
wanted to
she-
make sure you protected the backside of that with the residential down, I don't know what the road is, but.
And then there's that automated place
At the
across. from
top of that,
Sun,
you want to protect.
right on the hill, we were talking about all that, right? And didn't we actually go all the way down the mountainside?
Yes. This map does at least.
Yeah, I feel like we
Because
talked
it
about
goes all the way
that.
to
there's so little in there, and we figured if we wanted to encapsulate Route 7, right? there was some-
Well, and you wanted to encourage, again, future development. I mean, I tried to reread some of the minutes as best I could, but that was the idea of it.
Great job.
So that actually ties into the previous P O C D that was along the corridor.
Right.
Yeah,
And I think the idea of it was also to make sure that you know, if we were going to do something. That again, to stop the spot zoning, all encompassing, go as far reaching in a sense of where businesses were already going. And to make sure.
Wow, and in essence, touching the.
And the reason it's like light industrial and stuff is because you have the sawmill and other things, and that was why you weren't calling it a business, you were increasing it to a light industrial zone in that area.
So the Robshaw was already in there, and then did we, is it the next property? Because way back when there used to be, I don't know, what was it? Was it a real estate office?
Yes, it was a real estate office.
Realtors had it?
That's not
She
the right
had-
property though, it's the one,
is there an extra one?
yeah. But this
Oh,
is
it's
the,
this one, that.
I don't
the
know his
corner
name,
one.
but that's the old, it's. I
That's
guess
a
it's a
textile
little,
business now,
yeah,
right?
Robshaw? No.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then this was Belters?
Right,
yes,
it's now
yeah.
something
Oh,
else.
cause there
Like
was something in
Home Eco
between.
Builders.
It
There's
is, it's
in
something
between.
else.
Yeah, there is something.
Andrea Jasmine.
Jasmine, so sure.
Yeah, so I don't even know that that's there. And so now that we're seeing Kellogg Road, like where's Tom Scott? It's farm,
Well, he should be right on that river line, 'cause
right?
that runs through their property.
I'm not seeing a color, am I?
no, but I believe he's, the flower farm is ag.
Yes,
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
he's
so
on
he
this
it's
doesn't,
one.
not, he doesn't have to be in the village business.
Yeah.
even though it's,
It's rural, it's resident.
even though it's retail?
It's by right.
Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of that.
Yeah, does agriculture make this difference?
But then we're out of the village business center by the time we get up there.
Yeah,
True.
Yes, well, we are kind of,
We were touching that way, but.
We
I think
were.
wanted to kind of.
And then that turns into more spot zoning. I think we don't want to go further than what this encapsulates. And I think part of what I was trying to reread through those minutes was you guys were expanding it almost as far as you really could. Because then you're not really in the village, quote unquote, center anymore. She told me to go reread them.
Looking the,
Amend that.
the red is pretty problematic, but we won't go there. The business zone, the rural business zone, that's spot zoning.
And what's the purple? Purple is still
Light
zone-
industrial.
Okay, I was just gonna say.
Yeah,
It can have the businesses, but it wasn't within our center, so it's why it's carrying. Yeah, okay.
yeah, yeah.
So Janelle, kind of where, so we kind of getting on this and getting a little deeper into it. What is there a certain, Stephen, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, do we need to bring this to like a public setting where we discuss this? Isn't that sort of the next step of this?
Well, once we.
An informational,
Yeah, once we get, going back to what we had planned is, that's why all the property owners, this probably needs to be updated.
Totally, it really, I'll do
Yeah.
that.
We want to make sure everybody knows about this. And the ins, the outs, the whys, the whos.
Does that increase their taxes if they're considered in a?
Again, it
Not
doesn't
in our
fall
purview.
under our purview, but it.
no,
There's no.
Doesn't matter, oh, okay.
Yeah,
it wouldn't necessarily change
changing
anything.
zone doesn't
So,
change any.
if they wanted to add,
Outbuilding.
business into their home, yes, could raise it, but that's obviously goes. It allows them to, this would allow them to more easily, readily do that without needing a zone change.
Would we want to put any of, meaning these 2 pages as part of our minutes? Would it be important to begin to put this information out there? I think these 2 pages are very explanatory. I think they do a very good job, and it might be a good sort of beginning foray into this conversation.
I'm totally fine with that, I mean.
It's a draft though, so that's why I wanted to ask.
It is just a major draft.
I do want to change things. I definitely want to update, one, my email address, and then, but I do like these 2 pages as an informational. I would actually take the first 2 pages with a little bit of the contact information updated, and maybe instead of like, where can I learn more about this? Just saying, prior to making any decisions on this matter, the planning and zoning will be hosting an informational session. Are we gonna be doing that?
I think so.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Meet and greet. This is where you can ask me
Mail.
questions about how this change will impact you in the town. I'm not gonna set that date yet. I'm just gonna say the meeting details will be announced via the town's website. If you would like to be added to the email list regarding the proposed zoning map amendment or have any questions, please email. I would like to keep that, just so we begin having an interest list.
It'd be great to have a dialogue.
Yeah, agreed.
Without a
Critical.
and we're in a single place for that dialogue.
Property owner near some of this yellow. Could I perhaps ask to be added?
Absolutely.
I think that's a great time, yeah. What I would do is not have this. What are the? I mean, do you want me to include what are the affected properties with the list and just get rid of the property owners, or just start with just the?
I thought if we just started with the 1 page in the map, that was like sort of a good beginning
Primer.
stage. I would rather contact people first before you put a list of
I like
people
that.
out there, or even a list of properties out there, because I don't think that's fair.
Agreed. So a follow-up to this, just getting this out there, getting this on the website, getting this in the public eye. Would be me updating the property owner list and then continuing with the mailer. So that every single property owner on this list physically gets a mailer.
Without a doubt.
So that they are told very directly, this is being proposed very much in this manner, but so that they're all like just getting it in front of them.
Yes, they need to be part of the discussion at the very
Mailing
beginning.
labels.
Yeah, many mailing labels, so.
Yeah.
So,
But I think you're
Probably won't even
also
stick it.
separating owners from property addresses, so that maybe the property addresses go before the actual property owners.
Yeah,
So then somebody can scan and say, is my property on here, and
Oh, so you
And-
might think that the property should be included, just not the owners as part of this
yeah, I don't
list?
think.
The name,
yes.
yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking, just what are the affected properties and just having the street addresses.
Right.
That's what I
That
think.
might, that
fine.
might be for the website, and then we can do I need to review all the property owners of record, look at what's on the assessor's, website right now, just so everyone gets a sense. And then some of these, obviously, that won't be of public interest. 0 Warren Turnpike, 50 Main Street, that's Connecticut Light and Power property. There are things, I'll look at the undeveloped lots and just include their maps and blocks, so that we are very clear on what properties are affected. So I can do those updates. And then-
I can make your attachment to,
Yeah, does anyone have any questions about the dimensional requirements? I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, that's it. I think we met in the middle with what's existing. But what are your questions?
Well, for me, I can't judge what 30 feet looks like. So, seeing that in front of me, are all the property owners, do they have at least this currently?
what we did was we took the village residential business zone, right? And then we took the other zone and we compromised,
Village residential.
no,
Village residential,
yeah.
you said village residential business, because that'll make a new name, right?
Right, so we took the residential and then we took the business, we compared the two columns of sizes, and we sort of discussed each one and came up with that list right there. I might even have my old drafts of that.
I remember having longer.
A lot of time, we spent a lot of time. So it really was a compilation of looking at the residential, looking at the business. And coming together and it wasn't always, sometimes we chose what the residential had, sometimes we chose what the business had. Just based on lots and lots and lots of discussion.
And then bearing in mind, anything that's existing would be pre-existing non-conforming.
Right.
And with
Okay.
pre-existing non-conformings, what is, nice for the village residential zone, the village business residential zone, the minimum front yard setback is 0 feet. So it's right up basically to the road, so no setback from so.
But this way here, Eileen could always look at the regulations the way they are, see what the figures are for the residential, see what they are for the business, and figure out where it is, where it is now proposed, to see where it came from both of those. I don't know if that helps.
I just
No, well,
looked
it
this
would
up,
be
there's half an acre, 20,000 square feet.
Yeah, about, give or take, it's 43.
4.59 or something, just under.
You can't look at a lot and know it's 20,000 square feet. So,
I'm with you.
yeah. There you go. Great.
Makes you really good apple pie.
You know,
Priorities.
Any other thoughts, questions, concerns? I'll get this web ready.
so let's get it web ready, and then I think we should somehow, we're gonna have to have like a workshop for a public.
Q&A.
Before we get to a Q&A, we need to. Sure, all our ducks are in a row, and then it wants another two generations.
We're doing, the, special permitting now, in November for you, not in December. Right, don't we have a,
I was expecting December.
oh, okay, because there's a special meeting in our November one, so I just didn't know if that was. It's posted on the website.
November is gonna be special because we inadvertently put it on Thanksgiving.
Right, but there was a pre-meeting, look, there was a pre-meeting before a regular.
Oh, yeah.
At least it was posted on the website that way, so I wasn't sure. But that's okay, I was gonna say, do we wanna do it, if you're gonna do your thing in December, then do we wanna do it as part of our. Meet 15 minutes early or 20 minutes early and try to add it to our November meeting or not?
Have a public,
No, to get our ducks in a row so that we could maybe do the public meeting in January, because if we're doing your thing in December, I thought maybe we wouldn't want to do that as part of December. can we make that part of November so that maybe we could do a Q&A or do something in January? That might be a really good time to add a.
People okay, with an extra half an hour next month?
What is our date for next month?
It's a great question.
We're having that question because it seems to be posted on the website.
It is posted on the
You've
website,
been in-
the 17th, the weekend, the third.
Thursday prior, you guys are on your own.
Oh, we don't like hearing that.
You have a conflict.
Oh, it's on a Tuesday,
Oh, wait, is
the 19th,
wait, say that again?
and 19th.
Yeah, the 19th.
Oh, the
Tuesday,
Tuesday, the
19th.
19th.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I spoke too soon. I have yours.
So I think that's why we moved it that way.
Alright, so Tuesday, the 19th.
Okay, and is that,
It'll be a special meeting because it's not on our posted annual.
and are you saying to have it earlier?
Could we come a half an hour earlier to make sure we could get through all of this stuff? Could we meet at 6 o'clock instead of 6:30?
Consensus on that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
6 o'clock. So.
Cause I just wanna make sure we can get through this, cause I think if we can get this into January to actually have a public hearing, that would be really good.
Someone say that's a Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
that's it.
it was moved to Tuesday.
Yeah, I should,
I don't-
yeah.
Fine, 6 o'clock. Can you just be my helpful reminder if you don't see that change in the next couple days?
Yeah, I can make sure we get that, perfect.
That's November 19th, is it? What's the date?
Tuesday, November 19th, yes.
6 p.m.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Any wrap up on that, Janelle? We're good.
No, thanks everyone for all your input. Really helpful.
Going on next, we have to speed up now, comprehensive update priority list. Let's switch to Janelle.
I think I think we have our marching to do with.
I think that we were talking, this was the discussion based around what regs we wanted to move forward with. Or should we just continue with what we're working on now and then move this list further down the road?
Sounds like
Because
I jumped-
we're in the middle of things right now.
I feel comfortable with what we have on our plate just through
Great.
the new year, if everyone feels that way.
Great, thank you.
Does everyone have a copy of,
I have no changes to our list. Is that what you're saying?
I think we're tabling it until we get through.
The two, we have the
These
village
two.
business zone and
So we're gonna always kind of
The
keep that
trailer.
hanging there and then we may or
Yeah.
may not table it.
We'll call it a solar committee update.
Janelle, do you have an extra copy?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I have so many copies I'd love to get rid of. Anyone?
I think I got a couple.
Anyone? Sorry, okay. So a little quieter on the permitting front. Basically, everything is there. A first cut lot line modification associated with 166 Under Mountain Road was approved, as was the demolition of an existing barn and construction of a new barn. 95 Belden Street rather is the last post. For those of you, yeah. Yeah, I haven't gone and visited the cats in a
Well,
while.
who's the owner of 166?
Carol Flatten.
Well, that's what I thought you were gonna say.
I don't know
I'll
her name.
email you tomorrow.
Sure. There's follow-up. It's administratively approved as far as zoning compliance goes, but the housekeeping of filing on the town clerks. What, like that, none of the filing of the Mylar has happened yet
On Warren Turnpike, is that right?
on, Underground. Okay, well, we will follow up. Warren Turnpike, if everyone knows the field adjacent to where Felicia Jones used to live. The high school is interested in using that for an agri-science land lab. I went out there with the volunteer teacher, who just walked me through what they would be doing. So in case you see activity on that site, it is not Eversource. It's nice students from Quincy. Continue with, just responding to some zoning inquiries around Railroad Street, always available when those questions come up. 278 Route 7, inquiry just regarding establishment of a pool, very straightforward. And then I need to update the zoning permit fee. It's been updated on the website as of today. The permitting materials, so all of the handouts that are around town, I need to update so that it can reflect our changes in the permit fees. The routing sheet has been a little cumbersome. That sort of master document, I have no idea where it lives electronically. So I'm just trying to grab it. I don't know when it was updated to have my name instead of Tom Scott. And I would love to just update it for the fee purposes.
And you saw that I did try to.
Yeah, working on that, working on trying to find it. So if I need to recreate any sheets, I can recreate sheets, but just
Linda
there's
didn't have it?
Linda. That's probably who has it. Yeah.
That'd be my guess. If it was for buildings, she was always helping out.
Always, yeah. And then the referral, I'm keeping all those referrals so we can follow who's asking. So the Board of Selectmen to P and Z was the trailers ordinance. And then one, save the date, March 22nd, the Connecticut Bar Association, they are doing the all-day course. And I think it's in person, but I don't.
2025?
Oh, yeah, thank you for that. It's 2025.
They go back again.
Yeah, so I
Oh,
believe it's in
isn't that
person.
fun?
Oh, bummer.
It's a
It
Saturday.
was great when it was online.
I know.
The $40 is awesome to spend because the book packet alone is fantastic. There's so much information.
I use it every day.
Yeah, I need to get that the time.
Where's your turn? Maybe he'll give you a loan.
That concludes my CEO report.
Any questions for Janelle on the CBO report? Public comment, official correspondence, nothing in the mailbox. I did not receive any correspondence. Any public comments? Matt, anything on Zoom?
Anybody? No, no.
Motion to,
Vince?
I said it was a productive meeting.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
motion to adjourn at 8:20.
Nice.
Matt, is there a second? All in favor?
Yeah,
Hi.
it was Doug second.
Yeah, that's seconded. So,
Sold.
All right,
Great.
now the meeting is over. I need some really strong motions and seconds. Don't make me beg you with my eyes. Mad. Hiding on the owl.
Do I close the owl?
Just say,
Good night, everyone.
question about the 35 railroads.
Yeah.
The difference between the